Plans are underway to regulate traffic congestion on Lagos roads. A bill for a law to amend the Lagos State Transport Sector Reform Law 2018 was read for the second time this week.
The transport sector in Lagos State is faced with myriad of challenges. Top on the list is the daily pains of commuting from one part of the state to another, no thanks to the famous bumper-to-bumper traffic. But this is about to be addressed. Here, the lawmakers are deliberating on certain sections of the State Transport Sector Reform Law of 2018, which are about to be amended.
He said all members should go back to their constituencies and check.
Chairman of the House Committee on Transport, Honorable Adewale Temitope, spoke on other challenges in the sector which the bill seeks to address.
The Lagos State Transport Sector Reform Law 2018 was passed at the 8th Assembly, and the need at the moment was the reason why it was passed. Mr. Speaker, this law, there is a need for amendment as seen by the executive, and they've sent forward a bill to amend the law. Mr. Speaker, the law is to help the transport sector in Lagos State. If you recall, the things agenda of the governor had the transport and traffic solution as the first letter of his manifest. Mr. Speaker, this bill is to amend sections of the law. It's a 14-page bill with 53 amendments as of the moment. The merits and the merits are not far. Section 138 of the law also gives LAMATA the powers to regulate, which has been the bone of contention, where LAMATA becomes the regulator and LBSL, which is Lagos State Bus Services Limited, becomes the service provider within the state and operation. Mr. Speaker, this section 138 gives LAMATA the powers to regulate. At the same time, also introduces the bus reform, whereby LAMATA will have private sector individuals also get investing in the bus sector, which by creating the bus operating company, where we have private investors also invested in the transport sector.
Just to buttress what Honorable Chairman just espoused. Mr. Speaker, the amendment basically is to strengthen the principal law. It borders on protection of the road users, wherein before now, road markings are not really feasible on our roads. And in some situations, some last mile gangs will be looking around, looking for people that will be going one way. It protects, the amendment protects road users by making the authority to have feasible road signs that will be able to protect the road users. In addition to that, proud to now, Mr. Speaker, many dealers, when they import their cars, they can use it for 3, 4, 5 months. Some of them will abuse it. And this increased or it compromises security in Lagos State. I think with this law, if you drive a vehicle that is not actually numbered or registered, it becomes an offense, and I think that's going to strengthen our security. Mr. Speaker, I looked at the principal law in the course of checking this amendment. I discovered the principal law required overhauling as well.
Mr. Speaker, also, I see a lot of provisions that we have here. These are provisions that ordinarily will be more effective if we overhaul our enforcement unit of traffic offenses or traffic law. Most of these things, Mr. Speaker, unless we overhaul our enforcement method, will still remain the same because of means of monitoring. There are so many provisions here, Mr. Speaker, which are very laudable in the sense that it is now penalizing some of the things we have taken for granted on our roads, like concealing the plate number, like using plate number that are not registered. This is very frequent on our roads, and it is dangerous because people with questionable characters, can disguise using such unregistered plate numbers and concealing plate number. But when that is done frequently, who is to penalize? We all know what happens on our roads. So I will say that as good as this bill is to strengthen our law, we must, like Honorable Lowe said, the Committee on Transportation, when this matter goes for public hearing, they should look into, and they are writing the report to the House, they should look into the law in totality, as we know that the practice is not that the bill that comes into the House may not go out the way it comes. We have the power to look more into it and do more.
He noted that the amendments in the bill are expected to strengthen the sector.
Lagos State is yet to achieve the transport needs of the people with the estimated daily influx of 6,000 people, and they have to transport from point A to point B, either using vehicular mode of transportation or water or the rail service. And then it was very important for the Lagos State government to also start to look into mass transit and making it very lucrative, at the same time very affordable, and at the same time attractive, so we can have more people in one medium to move from point A to point B. So it is necessary to have governing laws to help enable these operations work effectively and smoothly in the state. You would recall that the governor just on Tuesday last week released 550 buses, and also he added to the BRT corridors. At the same time, he promised of more boats being added to the transport system, and we launched the first travel card called the Cowrie, where all the ITS, what we call the integrated travel system or transport system, is all together, all in one, encompassing, and where it will work with the boat sector, the waterways, the transport sector, which is the road, and the rail. So these are the things that we're trying to put together. At the same time, always trying to make sure, when they say where there is no law, there is no sin, that where we have defaulters, like you recall some months ago, there was boat mishaps where we unfortunately lost some passengers on the water because they had no life jackets on. So these are the kind of things that we're putting in place to have the transport law as encompassing as possible and effective as possible.
The State Commissioner for Transport, Frederick Oladende, is optimistic that the bill would address the overwhelming challenges in the sector when passed into law.
What we're trying to do, and you see, government cannot do this alone, and so we're trying to encourage the private sector to partner with the government. So we simply need to develop our laws and regulation to encourage the private sector to come in and invest in Lagos, and that's what the lawmakers are doing. So I think they're reforming the PPP law, they're reforming the transport law, and it's very important that all our institutions are backed by law, so that investors would have confidence in bringing their money, their investment, and that they know that once they bring their investment, institutions that are backed by law are actually, implementing some of their ideas. So I think that's very important, and the law is being reformed in such a way that various institutions would be given functions which is very clear, which is clear and very focused, so that you don't have overlaps between various institutions, and the ambiguity between who carry out these responsibilities will be removed. So I think that's what the lawmakers are working on, and I think that's important, especially for private sector to come in.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay.
The bill has now been committed to the committee to look into the sections to be amended and report back to the House in 2 weeks.
How are you today? I'm fine.
It's the second week of the tour of schools by the Lagos State House of Assembly Committee on Education. The visit of members of the committee to schools is to ensure that COVID-19 safety protocols are adhered to. Schools in Ojo and Badagry areas of Lagos were the focus. The inspection team proceeded to the ancient town of Badagry, where more schools were inspected.
Similar problems we are having here. That is the issue of population and the number of classes available, the classrooms available. The classroom available is grossly inadequate, and we have an average of about 150 in a class before COVID. So I don't know the arrangement that is going to be in place, but I will want to really listen to the Minister of Education, what they were going to do concerning the resumption of this type of school.
Beyond compliance with the COVID-19 guidelines, the visit also gave the lawmakers opportunity to note the challenges facing the schools.
Is there any wash hand basin?
Top on the list of the challenges are infrastructure decay, overpopulation and inadequate teachers. Here in Badagry, most school buildings are in deplorable conditions. The lawmakers found appalling the poor state of some of the school buildings. They're also skeptical about readiness of school to resume academic activities.
We have inspected their facilities and all the buildings, and we can see that the junior school is not like the senior secondary school. The senior school has almost everything. The junior school has the same problem that we can refer to as population problem. Some of the buildings, the classrooms is not really in good order, like the one that we just visited now. And also they have problem with the kitchen. It needs immediate renovation, and some works has to be carried out on it urgently, since the student will be resuming any time from now. The classroom blocks that we inspected now, I think it needs immediate demolition for reconstruction, because it has to do with some structural defects which will be dangerous for the students when they resume.
The two-day tour of schools in Badagry came to an end, and members of the team made their ways out of town. While the committee plans to continue the tour of schools in the coming days, members called on the State Commissioner for Education to pay attention to schools that are in deplorable conditions for immediate repair ahead of the planned school resumption date.
And that's it on Lagos Parliament this week. We thank you for watching. Do join us again next time for another episode. Until then, please obey the public health guidelines and stay safe.